Welcome in, everybody. It's that time again, season 5, Cannabis Conversation Podcast. Look, today's show is a special one for me. It's someone I've followed for a long time and have yet to have the opportunity to talk to till today. And so we are going to go off and have ourselves a fine and fun conversation. But before we get to that, we must call out our friends at Hephaestus. Thank you so much, Hephaestus House of Automation, for your sponsorship, for your trust. We love what you do. We appreciate it. And look, folks, if you're trying to produce 2,000 joints an hour, which is a lot, you're going to need a machine, and Aura X is the place to find it. One of the best pre-roll systems out there. Do yourself a favor. Head over to Hephaestus, Hephaestus -tech.com to learn more. And if you missed our opening episode this year with business development guru Tomer from Hephaestus, go back and check that show out. It was a hell of a good one. But here we are, and it's time for this. Again, this show is important to me. So if you don't know Seibo Shen, you know him now, and by the time we're done, you will. Seibo, how are you today, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for that intro. And I will do a +1 for the Hephaestus machines. They're awesome.
I love a +1. See, that's why we do the live readouts, folks. It's what we do for fun here, because smart people always know what smart things are. And so glad to hear it. And once again, Hephaestus, we love you and we appreciate you. The season wouldn't be possible without you and the beautiful Miss Casey Tomasello. So Tomaselli. So thank you so much for you both. Cassie's off, I think, having a child right now. It's a crazy woman. She was just on the show, and now she's doing that. She's unbelievable. All right, Seibo, so let's do this. We start the show the same way always. We start with the origin story. So tell us, friend, where did you first find this beautiful plant?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I will keep this short so we could jump into the conversation. But I first found the plant in college. I was actually a junior. I had been really focused on trying to make it to the football team. And if you guys have ever seen me in real life, you would know how crazy of a dream that is. I was only 135 pounds. And my junior year, I realized I'm never going to make it onto the football team. So I smoked a joint with my roommate. I instantly loved it. And I realized that this was going to be something that I did for the rest of my life. So I started thinking about healthier, safer ways to consume cannabis. So I made my first vaporizer in 1997. That's how I paid my way through college. And of course, over the years, it was just something I did in college. But in 2013, decided to take a lot of that knowledge that I had in college, building and selling homemade vapes, and decided to create one for the burgeoning Colorado market. And from 2013 to 2021, I ran my own company. We won a bunch of Cannabis Cup awards, and then COVID hit. Then I took a 3-year break from the cannabis industry. Can get into that story a little bit later. Got really focused on meditating and really trying to heal all the wounds that I had from an entrepreneur, as well as childhood wounds that I just ignored. And then in November of 2023, during a meditation, I just got this idea to buy a ticket to MJ BizCon, went to MJ BizCon, got hired on the spot, and that's how I got back into the cannabis industry.
Wow, we have a ton to unpack here. Let's first start with, I thought you were joking about the football thing, and at worst, I figured we were talking about the European version, because I have seen you on there. Tell me, man, you played high school ball and the hopes were to walk on in college? Just give me a quick background on you playing football.
No, I never even played high school football. I just saw that Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, they were my height, 5'8", 225 pounds. And I thought, okay, well, all I need to do is put on 100 pounds of muscle and I could also do this. And so I think there was a very high level of confidence without a high level of evidence that could be possible.
Look, confidence can take us a long way, man. All right. And so you probably came up against that pretty quickly. All right. So we're in college. Look, for this show, we would consider college a late bloomer. All right. So you're like 22, 23 in that range, 20 to 23?
No, about 20 years old. So I'm a junior in college. Yep.
I didn't go to college, so I forget how old people are when they go. All right. So 20 years old. Here you are in college. Smoke your first J. You know, I think my wife is pretty. I think she's pretty close to the late bloomer status, 19, 20 years old. I always joke with her. She's glad she didn't know me when she was 14. I'd have ruined her life. But at 20, I became her drug dealer, and it's a beautiful story thereafter. But as good stories go. So you're in this, you get this first J. I got to talk to you about old school vaporizers, dude. Okay. Because again, my wife and I go old school Colorado. So this would have been medical scene, probably like 06, 04, 05. Mm-hmm. And my buddy running a dispensary who I wholesale for and do some work with him, he comes in, he goes, dude, I got these new flower vape boxes. You're going to love this thing. You got to get it. So I was like, all right, I'll test it out. Dude, it was the worst experience ever because it vaporized it in a way where everything smelled like burnt popcorn. And it made everything taste gross. I can't remember the name of the damn thing, and it felt like it was maybe homemade, but you know what I'm talking about with the real shitty versions of this stuff early on?
Yeah, those are categorized as box vaporizers, wooden box vaporizers. There were two big brands, Vapor Brothers and Vapor Doc, that were kind of like the Apple and Samsung of that era. And you're absolutely right. Those used a soldering iron to control the heat and just a potentiometer to try to balance out the heat. So there really wasn't any intelligence behind it other than a hot soldering iron heating up the air, which would normally scorch your flower, which would lead to that burnt popcorn taste that no one really loves. And I think that's kind of been the issue with flower vapes, is that they just didn't produce the user experience that most people that were like a bong rippers or later dabbers, came to expect. And that to me is kind of like one of the more interesting things is now that I'm back in the industry, really trying to think about how can we make a flower vaporizer that could give you like a dab-like experience.
Well, I love that because that's where I'm at. So I went through the vape scene. I live in the Prohibition North, right? So I live in Wisconsin. It's nothing good here. And back when I first moved back here from Colorado, I would be down in Illinois, and it was still illegal at the time there. So I became a fan of the dabbing vapes just because of its social acceptability, and it sort of kept me under the radar, and I could do and go and have these things. However, within, I don't know, let's just call it 6 months, I started to experience really massive headaches and almost like a disconnect between my brain and my body after vaping that long. And so I started to think, are these two connected? Because I've been a flower guy my whole life. So I ditched it and the feeling went away. Is this something common that you hear, Seibo, or is this something that's like, it's kind of the one-offs? Yeah, it can hurt some people's brains, but it's good for others. Like, what's the overall consensus from your perspective on, I don't want to say the safety because it's your business. I'm not trying to call it unsafe. I am trying to speak to the user experience, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So I think that, it's all a matter of like how much data that we have, right? We have tons of data of people smoking cannabis for hundreds of years, and we know what it does to the body. Now, when it comes to dabbing, when it comes to vaping oil, we have like 10 years or maybe 20 years of data, right? We don't know the long-term effects, but I would always say, listen to your body. If your body is starting to tighten up because you're smoking too much, dabbing too much, vaping too much, switch to another delivery methodology. And I am, obviously, I've thought about what you have just told me. I've been around long enough to hear very similar stories to what you said. Is this a statistically relevant amount of people that have said this? Probably not, but if you hear it enough, it should be something that we should all be mindful of. So I always tell people like, hey, if you're like a daily dabber, if you're like vaping every single day, just be mindful of your lungs. We know what it's like to smoke cannabis every day, blunts, bongs, joints, but we don't know what it's like to dab these concentrated terpenes, for a long period of time. So I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm not trying to say it's super safe, but I do think that we should think about it. It's definitely something worth thinking about, and like I said, it's not to ring the fire alarm or anything, but if people are talking about something and we're really thinking and positioning this as a medicine, then absolutely, these are things that we should be thinking about.
And I think the medicine part is kind of what got me, because being in the Colorado scene, we were medical growers, and it was what we loved about it. We were growing for people who couldn't afford to do it otherwise. We were donating 10, 12, 15 ounces a month back to people just for the right to have their card to grow their, cannabis for them, giving it back to them, asking for nothing in return. It was kind of my way of giving back in a way, because I had so much passion for the plant and growing it. But then, even then, the beginning of medical in Colorado, even then it was still a flower game, for the majority of discussion, for the majority of what lived on shelves. The vape and terpenes have really brought, the next kind of level to the waxes and all these things. And so I remember when I first started to like take a little dab and put it in the bowl, I used to call it a freshener, and get you going. For you, how long did you spend in flower? Because I've been a flower kid my whole life. How long did you spend in flower before you really dove into the vape world? Because it sounds like you may have been, a vape guy before you were a hardcore flower guy. Is that fair to say? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So when I talk about like making my first vaporizer in 1997, it was a flower vaporizer. So it wasn't probably until 2013. Yeah, 2013 before I made my first oil vape. So from 97 to 2013, a good 16 years was just exclusive flower vaping. So that had been the vast majority of my my history or my usage of cannabis. And I would say still to this day, I've ripped bongs, gravity bongs, joints, blunts, everything. But I would say 99% of my consumption has either been through vaping or edibles.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. See, this is where it comes in. I think what I'm starting to realize, having done this show now, this is our 5th season. So we've talked to almost 50 people in the industry. It's interesting that edibles and vape come up, and whereas a lot of people who were like found it earlier in life are more flower people, and then they kind of go into that. What is your take right now on the edible scene? Like what is your hot take? Is it where it should be? Is there enough growth? Is there enough, oversight? I'm not a big brother guy, but do we have, food and drug involved to review things? Like, how do you feel about the state of edible right now? Because obviously my parents, their friends, this is how they got into weed. So I'm all about it. I love it. Let's all find ways to get involved. But for me personally, it just never triggers your thoughts on the scene right now.
Yeah, so I think maybe the first thing is the edibles high is significantly different than smoking or inhaling. The THC converts into 11-hydroxy, which is, they say, 10 to 15 times more psychoactive. I feel like it definitely hits more in the body than in the head. So I prefer the smoking high myself, to the edible high. But I do like the edible high for like the weekends when I just want to chill or for body pain. But I'm a big believer that, okay, so you asked me specifically about edibles. I think edibles are doing really great. And if we put drinks into the same category as edibles, like I feel like this is a really growing segment that is probably the best delivery methodology when it comes to normalizing cannabis, right? Like being able to drink. I know for myself, like I have over here in the corner, I have something called Terp Spirits. It allows you to pour little 5 milligram shots. And for someone like myself that has been allergic to alcohol and never able to drink in college, like being able to like toast someone and take a shot, like I was like, oh man, this ritual feels really cool. So I think that, I do consider myself a legacy person from, being in it since the late 90s, but part of like the way I view the cannabis industry today is that like what I loved, like the smell, the terpenes, the different cultivars, these are some of the things that the new user doesn't really appreciate. Like they don't care about the variety. They don't want it to smell, they want discretion. They want ease of use. They want convenience, and so for me, it's kind of like, it's good for me to stretch my creativity this way and knowing like, okay, there's a way that I used to design products in the late 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s. And now that we're in the 2026, there's kind of like a different mindset that I have to put myself into in order to figure out what's the best types of products for where the market is going. But I do think edibles and drinks are going to be continually a growing segment. And even though flower is the largest segment right now, I do see that shrinking with time.
All right. So I think where this all got off for me was when you said you were a junior in college and found cannabis. I did not associate that with 1997. So in 97, you were a junior in college? Is that how I have the math?
Correct.
Dude, come on. You look like you're 30 years old. What are you talking about right now?
Yeah, I'm turning 50 this year. So
you're killing me, dude. You look great. What a
thank
beautiful,
you.
and again, your lifestyle now, I watch it. I watch everything that you do with, you do the crazy, I don't even know. I don't want to call it like parkour or whatever, but like seeing you in gyms and shit, doing flips. And I mean, it's just crazy how you go about your life. And to hear that you're 50 years old, folks, look at this man. I mean, we could all be so lucky, dude. So, all right, now this all makes sense. 97, that was when in college. All right, I was a junior in high school, so I'm trying to.
Yeah. So I got a few years on you, and
wow.
For me, I really try to. I never like to preach or tell people what to do, but I try to just live my life in a way that is authentic for myself and hopefully aspirational and inspirational for others. And I do believe like the fact that the mass majority of my cannabis consumption has come through healthier delivery methodologies. I do believe the fact that I don't smoke as my primary methodology of getting my cannabinoids, like I do feel like that's kept my skin more youngish looking,
more youthful and glowing, as it were, man. I spend thousands of dollars to do that with, facialist and creams, according to my wife. It's all, I would be, I would have sandpaper skin if not for her wonderful ideas. That's for sure. But yeah, dude, great job. You're wonderful. And let me tell you, if those were your goals, to what you just stated about why you're doing what you're doing, from my perspective, you've hit a home run, because it's how I feel when I watch your content. And we'll get into some of the meditation stuff a little bit later on in the hot hit segment, because I'm someone who struggles with the concept of it in general, shutting my mind off for 30 seconds. It's difficult for me, being this kind of, I don't know, I'm a high level addict of all things, including work, including drugs. And so I realize that moderation is my way through life. And I've done that with my life the whole time. And so I love the way that you approach things, and I really want to get into that. So when we look at right now the cannabis scene, and you talked about the beverage part. I have beverages here in the Prohibition North, right? And I find it hilarious. Like the grocery stores have THC drinks. We have hundreds of dispensaries here that all sell, according to them, hemp products. According to me, there's a lot more than hemp products in those stores visually as I go through them and just turn over labels and look. Where do you stand on the current kind of hemp, cannabis, all same plant? What does that conversation do for you? When you hear it, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's the business side of me, and the business side of me can see these as two totally separate things. Then there's just the logical, rational human side of me that's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, making, delineating this from that, and just making different molecules legal and different ways that we perceive it to be illegal. And I would say that for me, having California potentially wipe out the entire hemp industry next year is a wake-up call that we should all start working together instead of covering our own asses. And what I mean by that is that, like the people that were fighting like big business to get into cannabis, ended up being like the same people that were trying to prevent hemp providers from like growing, and so it's like, do we want to behave like the people that were oppressing us, or do we want to be better than them? And I totally understand people wanting to protect their business, but at the same time, all I hear about is people getting into this business because they want to do something meaningful, and so that's why I got into it, was to do something meaningful and not to kowtow to, my maybe greedy business desires, and to really try and do what's right for not just our customers, but for the planet at the same time.
That's what I kind of come back to, right? Is this idea like the division of the molecules, right? It's like, to me, it's like saying, okay, beer is legal, hard alcohol is not. Like, that would be insane. No one would go for that in a world that we live in today. So one plant, one place, one product. But to you and me, I'm a businessman as well. And when I hear businesses and I think of what my buddies have laid out for permits to get cannabis dispensaries, to do all these things, and then these guys walk into gas stations and, flip over a counter and they have a similar opportunity to sell product. That part I get the frustration. I understand it. But like you, I say the same thing. Like, I'm in this industry because I have a passion for it. I don't make money in cannabis. What happened? People are like, you have a sponsor. My sponsor pays my social team and not even pays it. Okay. So like, this is a losing experience if you want to get to the dollars and cents of it, but it's not why I'm here. I'm here to give back. I'm here to have conversations. I'm here to tell stories. And I think that a lot of people, I don't want to say a lot, I shouldn't do that. I think there's a fair amount of people who have the fairy tale story, but actually end up just wanting to make a bunch of money and get in and get out. And I think that's where the division of what's real is happening right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a really great point because, I had kind of mentioned in the story that I took a 3-year break from the cannabis industry and really focused on meditating. And that was exactly what happened, which was when I started my company, I felt like I was very much in alignment. I wanted to provide hardware devices that gave the best user experience for the end user. And then, it was a $600 like high-end dabbing device. And then when vape pens became popular, I was like, oh shit, like there's something completely new. And either I had to adapt or no one was, in the market for $600 home devices when they could get a $15 vape pen. Right. And so I started noticing that I was making decisions based on not what I believed was best for our consumers, but strictly decisions that kept the lights on in the company. And for me, like I don't blame myself for doing that, but I could see that the words coming out of my mouth were not congruent with what I was feeling, meaning that I would be like, yeah, this plant helps people. I'm here because I want to normalize and destigmatize it. But the truth is I was just trying to keep the lights on, keep the lights on and doing whatever was necessary, making decisions that I can't say I'm very proud of today that I did, but I learned from them and realized like, I don't want to be in that situation anymore. So I do believe that a lot of people that got into this industry have either were like me that lost their way because the industry got really competitive, or they were just saying these things from the get-go because they knew like a lot of hippies are in this industry. And then if you kind of had more of like this like anti-corporation talk and more about like the people and the medicine, like I've seen people utilize that as kind of like their marketing shtick too as well, and at the end of the day, I'm a pretty pragmatic guy. It's like, hey, whatever you want to do in business is up to you, but just be honest with yourself. If you're doing it for the money, great. Just don't say like you're doing it for the plant and whatever reason you want to do it for, like, I'm not judging, just be transparent about it.
Do it. And transparency is a big one for me. I'm a self-called capitalist hippie. That's what I refer to myself as. I understand money makes the world go round, but I also want to give back. I'm wearing Birkenstocks. I drive a Subaru. I mean, I'm doing what I can, right? So I'm a kind of guy who I love the plant. The plant saved my life. I suffered from migraines as a kid. They all want to put me on expensive medication. I found cannabis at 15. It cured my migraines. It got rid of my stomach ulcer, and it gave me a life. And it gave me a life that wouldn't have otherwise been, possible. So I'm always going to want to give back to it. However, I need to remind people that in business is about profitability. If you want to be in business to not make profit, open up a 501c3 and go do that. But at the end of the day, if we're here, whether it's keeping the lights on or trying to grow it, whichever it is, it's still a business. And people have to remember that we're in an industry that's so still infantile. So, I mean, I'm in a 200-year-old business in automotive, right? Like, no question, goes back maybe even 300 years at this point. So we're all on the same point about like what's possible, what's not. But in cannabis, it's all so new, and the growth is so non-linear. It just isn't. It has its ups, its downs. What is your suggestion to people right now who want to get into cannabis and start a business in cannabis? What's the one thing you tell them right now, Seibo?
I would tell them to be able to hold paradoxes in your mind very easily, And what I mean by that is kind of like you just called yourself the capitalistic hippie, right? Like in many ways, like those two words probably shouldn't go together. But if you are someone that's just getting into the cannabis industry, I believe you have to have the ability to hold paradoxes very easily. And maybe one of the paradoxes that I like to talk about is like being completely satisfied with your life, but at the same time, wanting more, you know? And so for me, that puts me into like a very good headspace of like every day, super grateful for waking up, having whatever I have in this house. But I also know I want more. I want to create more. I know I could contribute more. And, you know, like I know this is kind of like a long-winded answer, but I do believe like too much capitalism and too much logical, rational thinking kind of leads to burnout, and like too much like spiritual thinking just leads to like delusions. Like I want to be a 13th dimension Pleiadian or something, you know? And I believe like being able to kind of hold both of these, like, yeah, I am an infinite eternal being, but I am living a finite 3D physical space-time existence right now. You know, that allows me to show up every day in a highly volatile industry and to really hold my center and to be very grounded and to know that these are all opportunities for us to shape the industry in the way that we want, not just suffering for the sake of suffering every day, you know?
Well, because it's a good story to suffer, Seibo. You know what I mean? we wear it as tattoos about what we've been through in that way, and I get that. But I like what you say because it's something that I'm 45 years old, and I'm really trying to do that same thing, right? I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, had my company in the last 13 years. We just had our best year ever. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I come into quarter one this year, I'm getting my ass kicked. It's not pretty. It looks terrible. But lately I've been saying something similar, which is, okay, look, we're good. It's not good right now, but it will get good again. And we will have a way to do that. But I'm grateful that we have our company, and I'm grateful that we can do that. But yeah, man, I'm still on the same boat you are. I still really, 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 really want to grow it. So one second,
okay.
technical problem. 1 second. Technology is it's here when you want it, not when you don't. So you were going to add on to the conversation about that. So what did you have to say?
Yeah. So, having been a part of 5 successful exits, I'm very accustomed to like growth. And when we would have like down quarters, down months, down years, like that used to like really affect me. Kind of like how you were just describing, like, holy shit, like we had our best year and now January's off to a rough start. And what I learned by having a deep meditation practice, and the way that why I talk about meditating so much is like some people use ChatGPT and I just use meditation, like my prompt is my intention for the meditation. And when I meditated on this is like, hey, why is it that like even after all these years of entrepreneurship, I still have down months? Shouldn't I have like learned to at least like kind of like level it out? So like maybe we're just breaking even versus having down months or whatever it may be. And what I got back from my higher self, and when I say higher self, I just think of like a futuristic, smarter, higher level of consciousness version of myself. What was given back to me was that, yeah, well, like, how do you think you'll keep growing and expanding as a business person if things are always going well? Like you always tap into more creativity, more different options that you weren't willing to look at when things were going well, when things aren't going well. And it really just started showing me that like when people say everything is happening for your greatest good, it doesn't mean everything happening is going to be good news. It means the bad news is what you needed to hear in order to like wake up and learn whatever you needed to learn. And when the bad thing happens, you could look at that challenge as a bad thing, or you could look at it as like a gift for leveling you up. And so I've learned after 49 years that these are all gifts. And every day I wake up with multiple gifts in this industry to make me a better person.
I can't disagree with you, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't believe in coincidences, right? I think life is mapped out as it should. And I was on a snowmobile trip with some friends of mine. We do it every year. We've been doing it for a long time. And my sled broke way, 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 way far away from my hotel. And I had to walk into a bar and middle of nowhere, offer someone $100 I did not know for a ride 50 miles back home. And it happened to be the owner of the bar. And he was going to give the money to the bartender. And on the ride back, This dude just he's in his almost 60 years old, and he's just dropping these bombs on me about don't waste your life. Don't try and save every dollar. You'll never be able to spend it. You got to live now, buy businesses, try to grow, have fun. I'm just like, how did I end up in this truck tonight? Like, this is insane. You know, like, I can't believe this, because these are all the things that I've been struggling with, that I've been, you know, my wife, she just said to me last night, she's like, it sucks that you have to always have the world falling on you when business hits you know, because I'm the boss, right? So everyone who works here doesn't know about the losses. They all still get paid. Everything looks the same. But in my world, I'm like, shit, how am I going to recover the 6 figures I just lost from waking up yesterday to going to bed tomorrow? And it's part of the gig, you know, and I know you know that. But the meditation part is really where I really need to dial in and figure out, because I'm not a religious kid by nature. I was raised Irish Catholic and deserted it as soon as I could. But I've tried. My wife she's so into the energy. She's you know, she's Reiki 1, getting ready to be Reiki 2, like these things, the way she talks, what she's brought to me about this stuff. It's changed my life. Reiki changed my life. And I know it sounds like meditation changed yours, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was an atheist for the first 44 years of my life. So pretty much at the same inflection point as you. And the company that I was running, we were doing a joint venture with another company, and we grew our revenue from 6 to 7 to 8 figures in 18 months. And then I went into the deepest depression I ever went into. And that's when I realized, like, oh, wait, like I had always thought when the business was doing better, I would be happier. But now I'm seeing the business is exploding and I'm not happy. What's going on? And I think what that gentleman was telling you was kind of what I was coming to the realization of, was like, hey, Seibo, you're in your mid 40s. You've been doing this for 2 decades. You know how to make money. You know how to make money. Like, it might be time to start focusing on other things in your life. And so that other thing for me happened to be meditating. And thank goodness I got a back injury, because I was super into jujitsu. And if it wasn't for my back going out, I probably would have never like stuck to meditating. So I left my company. I got injured. I had a lot of free time. And so what I started doing was meditating. And every new doctor that sees me asks me like if I've been diagnosed for ADHD, you know, so I am someone that has trouble sitting still, and meditating was challenging for me. But what actually shifted was one meditation shifted everything, which was my wife and I, we both did 7 grams of mushrooms. And then we both had this vision that I was going to become a coach. And I've never coached anyone in my life up until that point. I'm still running my company. And we both had that same vision that I was going to walk away and become a coach. Then the next day we do this meditation and we have like that same vision. And I'm thinking, okay, I did 7 grams of mushrooms the night before. Maybe I still have some psilocin in my system. So no big deal. The next day, do that same 70-minute meditation. The next day, do that same 70-minute meditation. And every day I'm able to like access these higher frequential levels of knowledge that I only had access to when I did psychedelics. So this started making me feel like, okay, it's not this, it's not the DMT, it's not the psilocybin, it's not the ayahuasca that's giving me this capability. It's something innate within us. And so I start coming to the conclusion that our brain is more like a radio tuner. And if we know how to tune to different frequencies, we could access different frequential portals of knowledge. Just like if you look at someone under ayahuasca, DMT, psilocybin, put them under a fMRI, you will see that the activation levels or the activation areas of their brain are almost similar to master meditators. So I just start kind of putting 2 and 2 together, that meditating is a way to access like these levels of consciousness that you can only access through psychedelics. And then I also realized that meditation is not about clearing your mind. Just like you can't tell your heart to stop thinking, you can't tell your mind to stop thinking, or you can't tell your heart to stop beating. You can't tell your mind to stop thinking, but you could focus your mind on what you want it to focus on. So you could think about this podcast, or I could be thinking about the shopping list after. But once I realized that meditating isn't about making the mind empty, and it was about how long you could focus on whatever you want to focus on, that became addicting to me. And then that's why I write what I write about on LinkedIn, because I do believe that cannabis and psychedelics are are gateway drugs to higher levels of consciousness that you could access without exogenous molecules.
And that's what I'm saying. That's how I've always used them, right? Is I've always used them to unlock the mind. You know, I always say that a $5 hit of acid, best $5 I've ever spent. You know what I mean? I have an 8-hour vacation in my own house and within my own mind. But that people have to be ready for it, right? Like
Correct.
If you're not mentally prepared for going on any of those journeys, mushrooms, ayahuasca, acid, any of it, you have to be mentally prepared and understand what's going to happen. So yeah, man, I mean, geez, you're really just diving into the brain here quite a bit because, I thought I had to empty the mind. I thought I had to do these certain things. And I thought the only way that I could have that creative juice was to take those mushrooms, take these, you know, whatever it is. And I haven't in a long time because, you know, we've had some things happen in my life that have kind of pushed me away from that part of it. And so, you know, I haven't. I've just been on the cannabis front and haven't been in hallucinogenics now for, since probably 3 years. And I still can tap the creative side, but it's more when things like this happen, when my company starts to downward and I go, shit, I better figure out how to, you know, pull us out of this. But that is how it goes. Well, dude, you took me right into what we call the hot hit segment because I want to get more into this meditation. So don't forget, everybody, Hot Hits brought to you by Hephaestus House of Automation. Have you ever wanted to produce 2,000 joints in an hour? I know I have. If you're one of those people and you're an operator who could do that, you need to go check out the Aura X from Hephaestus House of Automation. Head over to Hephaestus, HEFESTUS-tech.com to learn how you can start making 2,000 joints an hour. And boy, are they good. Thank you so much, Hephaestus. We really, really appreciate you. All right, time for the hot hits. Word association game. I say reschedule. You say
psychedelics.
Beautiful. Love it. Love every minute of it and keep it all in the same, should be all part of the same discussion then as far as you're concerned.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. Meditation mistakes.
Frustration.
Frustration. I like that. Okay, last one here. It's a loaded question to you, but I want to know, and if you want to drop brands, I want to hear them. Favorite way to consume?
Ooh, okay. Favorite way to consume is with a ball vape. The ball vape are these new flower vaporizers that do give you dab-like hits. And so I've been using one called the Wireless One Hit Wonder, which I got from a guy named Charles that runs the Dab Hut. You may have seen him on LinkedIn as well.
I love it. Yeah, you know, I used to have a wax dabber. God, I want to say the name of the company was iCloud. And I don't know for sure, but it was a glass dome that you just basically took the glass dome off, had it right in the heating element. You put your dab right on the top of it, put the glass dome on, boom. That thing was tight, but this is like 10 years ago. So I assume technology has moved forward. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting to see how far like just all this vape technology has come, you know, like I got a few different interesting things like on my desk, like this little nebulizer that I'm working on right here. So this is like a no heat, no fire, no burn technology. So no carcinogens, no heavy metals or liquid, just 50 nanometer water particles of cannabinoids, you know? So there's a lot of really cool, interesting things that'll be coming down the pipe.
Oh,
no pun
man,
intended.
I love it. I'm excited to hear about it. I would love to hear about the ball vape for flower though. So if whoever gave that to you is watching, let me know, man. Hit me up. I'm a huge flower kid and I would love to know more about it.
Yeah, and I will tell you, this flower vape is so good that I was maybe consuming a couple times a week on the weekends, but after I got the ball vape this past September, I've gone back to like a daily consumer again. So I've just really enjoyed this experience with the flower. And the way I kind of look at it is like flower is like eating an orange. Dabbing rosin is like orange juice with pulp. Like live resin is like orange juice from concentrate, and then distillate is like tang, so being able to eat like oranges again and getting like the intensity of the high that I like from rosin has been a huge game changer for me.
That's awesome. I love the name of it too. The wireless one-hit wonder. That's a solid approach to anything there. All right. Last question that I have for you on the way out. What is next for you in this industry?
Yeah. So I would say that the reason why I came back to this industry was I saw how popular all-in-ones are. And I don't care how convenient they are. I don't care what the user experience is like. They are tough on our planet, to throw away a printed circuit board, a battery. So what's next for me is fixing this problem. I spoke to all the manufacturers in China, our competitors, and they've come up with kind of like biodegradable versions and stuff, but that if the shell is biodegradable, the battery still gets thrown away. So to me, that's not really a solution. So we just need a next level of creative thinking, and that's what I'm always going to be focused on: how to make better delivery models for cannabinoids. The thing that I showed you, I think, is a step in the right direction, where everything that I showed you on there would be able to be recycled. Because there is no smell as well. You could use them indoors, like at a restaurant or in a car or in an airplane. And I really believe the word vaping now is more synonymous with like teenagers and college students vaping nicotine than delivering healthy medicinal cannabinoids to people. So that's what's next for me, is how to take vape to the next level.
Unbelievable. And there are fewer people I would trust that journey with than you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. You're an absolute pleasure. And the meditation, even the littlest bit we got into today with the advice that you have is outstanding, man. So thank you so much.
Dude, I appreciate your energy. I love sitting on the other side. Usually I'm on your side of the thing where I'm asking questions. So it was really awesome to have someone like you bring really awesome energy and, ask me relevant questions versus pre-planned questions. So I had a great time and really enjoyed your vibe too. And I love what you're doing for our industry.
Thanks a lot, man. I do appreciate it. And while we're on the thanks of everything, let us one more time thank Hephaestus, the house of automation. You guys are the best. We really, really appreciate it. If you're looking for clean Dutch finish joints, and maybe you're interested in 2,000 of them an hour, check out the Aura X at Hephaestus, HEFESTUS-tech.com. Tell them Sean sent you, and they'll take good care of you either way. Thank you so much to the sponsor. Thank you so much, Seibo, for you being here, bud. And thank you all for listening and watching the show. Remember, it is our goal on this show to remove the stigma of this plant and uplift it to its rightful place within our society. So we're doing our part. We hope you do yours, and we'll see you all again next week.